Hi, Annelise. Welcome. I'm so excited that you've joined me for our conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me, Maura.
Absolutely. So I wonder if we could start this conversation off by you sharing just a little bit about what you do, because I know you've got a couple of different things in your life that take time.
I do. I do have a couple of things. So, what do I do? I run a marketing agency that
Mm.
I started 6 years ago because I wanted to be home more with my children, and my employer declined flexi time pre. It's funny to think of now, right? Post COVID
Pre-COVID.
times, but pre that it was not. I was not allowed to work from home after
Mm.
maternity leave. Um, and so I have that agency. And what happened with that agency was that we built it up in a couple of years to be successful enough to bring my husband home from work.
Oh.
And so women started asking me how I did that and
Mhm.
if I could help them. And a lot of them wanted small businesses that it didn't make sense for them to hire my marketing agency because they were never going to. The marketing agency worked with construction and trades.
Okay.
And for women who wanted to bring in, $500 a week, $1,000 a week, like it just
Mhm.
didn't make sense financially for them to hire me. So I began a mentoring program. And so now, primarily, that is still what I do in a bit of a different format 4 years later.
Okay.
But I have a marketing agency and I mentor primarily women to master their marketing and build their business and hire a team and scale with systems that are simple and build businesses that are life first, because that's why I started mine.
Oh, there's so many things in there to talk about systems and having life first. And I love that you really recognize the need for women who didn't need necessarily the agency fee that we often associate with marketing agencies. They needed something smaller, something that was just a little bit different and more customized to them and their revenue goals. So I love
Yeah.
that concept. Oh my gosh. That's not
Yeah.
something I
I,
hear about very often.
yeah. I really, I knew they had to learn how to do their own marketing.
Mhm.
So that's what it started off was like learn how to DIY your own marketing and you'll do
Mhm.
the work and I'll just teach you how to do it
Yeah.
because I think so many of us who aren't, every one of us who aren't originally marketers, I was originally a marketer, but everybody else who want like us to start a business, we're coming with our skill. And then we have to learn like 10 other entirely other skill sets like leadership and marketing and
Yes.
finance and, all of these graphic design, like all of these
Mhm.
things that people go to uni for years.
Yes.
We're solopreneurs and we need to know how to do all of them really well.
Mhm.
And yeah, that it's such a barrier to so many. And so I thought if I can lower the barrier for marketing, then they can take that wherever they go.
And I think it's a barrier and it also creates so much overwhelm. And I think the overwhelm itself creates a barrier all on its own without recognizing that we have to be so many different things in our business in order to
Mm.
be successful, whatever that looks like for you personally, whatever you want. But how do you take all of those hats that you have to wear? Let's focus just on the marketing because marketing has so many different pieces to it, especially these days with the online, with in person, with some combination, with post COVID, with
Yeah.
things opening up. How do you create that balance of being able to do that stuff, learn it, implement it, but it doesn't take over your life?
Yeah. Good question, because it's really easy to get caught up in like the shiny object
Mm-hmm.
syndrome of,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're on social media, which most of us are and definitely should be if we're, trying to start a business, that's where the people are.
Right.
So, but everyone who, there's so many coaches, there's so many different marketers sprouting different theories, like there's so many options and
Mm-hmm.
it it's really confusing for people just getting started because it all seems like they need to learn new technology and they need to, so the whole language
Oh,
that we kind of don't understand. But I think what we all do, and this is kind of a really big temptation in business, I think, at any level, is to overcomplicate it. And when we think about marketing,
I'm
how
guilty. I'm guilty.
all of
I like to
us,
overcomplicate things.
all of us, and we just, and we can go like, oh my gosh, and that looks like a good, and she's getting great success with that. So I'm going to pull that in. And my biggest advice to every single entrepreneur, and yes, myself included, is to remember the buyer journey. And maybe if you're a new business owner, you haven't heard of it, but to remember that someone needs to become aware of you before they can be interested. So first you need to think, how am I going to get in front of new people? And you just need one way initially of getting in front of new people. Maybe it's getting on podcasts, maybe it's running Facebook ads, maybe it's really diving all in and going with your content and making sure that your reels have great hashtags. Like, pick one lane initially and really focus on that one lane of getting in front of new people. Next, you need them interested. So you need to be able to build a relationship with that person and communicate what you do. So again, pick one way that you do that. Do you write blogs? Do you have your own podcast? Do you, again, go all in on social? Do you, there's so many different ways that you can do that. Do you go live once a week? Like, pick one way of doing that and moving people from just like, oh yeah, I know who that person is, to, oh, I know and I trust and I like that person. And then you need one way of selling, and you need to do that like consistently, because otherwise your business is a hobby. And
yes.
So do you have just one way of selling? Is it that you just always push consultations? Is it that you do a webinar once a month? Is it that you have a store? Like, again, it kind of doesn't matter, but we all can just simplify it in that way and go, oh, I'm really great at talking, so I'm going to go and get on other people's podcasts and try and get on stages and try and get visible that way. And then I'm going to have my own podcast that I move them to. And on the podcast, once a month, I'm going to promote a webinar, and on that webinar, I'm going to sell. Like, so then you have a system, and you don't have to worry about having 47 buckets where you're trying to, have your hose of energy and spray madly into these 47 buckets. You have 3 buckets and they fill up a lot quicker. And so you see the results a lot quicker that way.
And you still get to have a life, because if you are not trying to do webinars and this and that and that and that, if you're just focusing on that, for instance, one webinar, you can deliver that over and over.
Totally.
Doesn't have to be a brand new webinar every month.
No. And I would argue that you should not make it one every month, because you're walking back down the bottom of the mountain then. Right? You have no data, you have no anything, like, you're not known for that thing. So I think really we can simplify, and we like to have our options open, and we kind of get, a bit of FOMO and that shiny object thing. But if you can really go, hang on, I just need to narrow down first and get that working. And once that's working, you can add in other things, because you'll have a lot of it on autopilot. So you'll have the capacity.
So what do you do? How do you make those kinds of decisions? Because like you said, we see all of these different things on social media in particular, and it's buy this course, buy that thing, buy this template pack. And they all kind of are just enough different that they don't necessarily mesh well. How do you choose the one thing to try and just stick with it and give it a chance to work? How do you figure out what to go with?
Yeah, and you might not get it right first time, because you haven't done this before and you're playing and experimenting. So first, like, allow yourself that grace to kind of get it wrong. And I would do kind of what I mentioned, which is go with your strengths.
Okay.
Like, what is the easiest thing? Like, if doing a webinar for you means that you need to go and buy all of this software and learn how to use technology, and then like do an email, like, if that feels big and overwhelming, then don't do that. Do a live on Facebook with your phone. Like, it's the same thing. So just think, what's the easiest thing for me to get off the ground right now, leveraging my strengths, not my weaknesses, and go with that. So maybe you've got a great network, amazing, leverage those relationships and get in front of other people's audiences. Like, really, what is the simplest, easiest thing for you to get off the ground where you don't need as much equipment? Like, what is that thing? And I would do that thing. And maybe for a lot of us, I was terrible at speaking and video and everything initially. It really was a skill I wanted to learn and took me a while.
Yeah.
And so potentially if that's you, then you can start with making connections on social media and then, go live on your phone and sell. You can go live once a week and once every one of those sell. But we do need to get to that place where we're comfortable selling, or we won't have a business for very long.
Ooh, that's a tough spot, because a lot of times what I hear from entrepreneurs, and I've fallen in this challenge before as well, is that you feel like then you're being pushy. Because this is the first time, if you worked in a corporate setting, someone else did the sales probably. You just worked with the clients who came in and you served them, or you created, or you weren't even client facing perhaps. And now it feels like, oh my gosh, people are just going to cringe when I start making my offer to them. How do you manage that mindset to be able to actually transition into a conversation about, here are the next steps?
Yeah, a couple of ways. Remember why you started your business. And it was probably for some sort of freedom for yourself, but it was probably also because you thought that you could do things a little bit better or a little bit differently than you had seen or been able to do in a corporate setting. And so remember that what you're actually bringing to the table, the value that you have, in some way, your business is going to make someone's life or business better. And if it's their business, it's going to make their life better. So you're helping to improve someone's life in some way. And if you don't tell people about that, then we're really robbing them of that opportunity to make that transformation. And so like you have something, you're not some, terrible swindling car salesman selling them a lemon. Like you have something great to offer. You can move them from one place to another. And it's like you've made this delicious plate of brownies and you're just holding them and you won't share them, right? People want the brownies. They want your brownies, and you need to tell them, or kind of like, just stretch out, like, would you like one? So it's not being pushy. You're not shoving it in their mouth. It's just going,
here's the
holding
plate.
out the plate. Yeah. Would you like a brownie? And most people are going to say no, or just not say anything, because you can't work with everybody. So it doesn't matter, because people are, you need to get someone at the exact right time that is going to work for them, which is why we need to keep presenting the brownies. Because maybe, and I'm sure you've had this experience, right? You see something that you want to buy, whether it's a coaching program or like a bikini or a something. And you probably don't buy it right away, but maybe you go back and check and you're like, oh, hang on. Oh, yeah, do I? Yeah, I think I want it. Like, and then there's a 10% off deal and you buy the thing, right? You're like, hang on, I'm going on holiday, I'm buying the thing. And so it's the same. You want to keep reminding people that it's there. And if you're doing it out of authenticity and actually wanting to help people, and not just doing it out of a place of, desperation, and you don't have a product that you love and that you can stand behind, then you'll be fine. You'll totally be fine. Just remember, like, just stretch out the hand and go, this is what I offer. If this is where you are, I can help you get to here. You don't have to push it and be aggressive.
I really like that idea of just offering the brownie. That a lot of times, I think what happens is we set it up differently in our mind than the person who's listening hears it. That a lot of times we think we're shoving the brownie and they think, oh, you're offering a brownie. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that picture. That's a really good one to remember when we're thinking about making an offer.
And I think, remember too, the last thing that you bought that you loved and wanted to buy. Like you as the consumer, you really wanted that coach to help you move there, or you really wanted that set of templates to make everything easier for you. Like you wanted your hands on that thing. It wasn't, sales is great. It's win-win. That's the best business, is win-win. Where, yeah, I'm offering you something that helps you and I'm being financially compensated and that helps me. So that's where business gets to be really beautiful, this sharing of value, this exchange that
there's a reciprocity to it.
Yeah, yes.
And
done well, we feel good.
Yes, everyone feels good in the situation. It's not just you closing that deal, signing that contract with a potential client. It's they feel good too, because they feel that relief that something is finally going to change for them.
Yes.
They get to take a step forward. And that is a huge thing to be a part of. That is why we're in business, is to help people. For the 99% of us are in business to help something or someone change their life.
Yeah. And I'd say if you're feeling icky about sales, then you're definitely you are coming from that place. And so we just have to kind of take our eyes off ourselves and remember, why we're doing it and the effect that we can have on people.
Yes. So now, as a new entrepreneur, a lot of times this feels like it takes a lot of effort, right? There are a lot of different hats we're wearing. And it used to be, if you're in corporate, you worked 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or something similar. And there was a lot of structure. And now all of a sudden you are out on your own as a solopreneur and the structure just isn't there. And I don't know if you've seen this. I know I've seen it and I've certainly struggled with it, is that without that structure, you feel like you need to be working in all of the nooks and crannies of time that you possibly have to make your business a success.
Yeah.
And then there's the guilt. If you take time off or you go do the thing you really wanted to do that has nothing to do with business, and you think, I should not have done this today. I should have sat at my desk and finished that blog post, email sequence, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you don't enjoy it. Any tips or ideas for shifting that mindset and really coming so that you can live first, kind of as you said?
Yeah. And I guess that's the key, is the first part. And I think we've all been here, and we all have to, again, experiment with what is actually going to work with us. And by default, you'll probably fall into, oh yeah, the children were at daycare at this time, and so of course I'm going to start here. I can't possibly go for a 2-hour walk with a friend first. But remember that that's why you have your business. And so I would literally sit down with a calendar, and like a calendar or a virtual calendar, just something, and put in life first. All of those things that you want to do, put those, like block out those spots. So yes, I have to pick up the children here. I've got these activities. I've got, and put that in. And if you know that you'd like to go to the gym 4 days a week, then put that on the calendar. If you know that you want a date night with hubby once a week, put that in like literally everything that is going to fill your cup and sustain you. Put those on first, like a massage once a month, like literally everything, that the holidays, the vacations that you want to take, the weekends away, all of that, put that stuff on your calendar first. And those are the things that we have to remember, that rest and the well-being activities recharge us, and they fill up our cup so that we can pour out from the overflow. And that is when we are better, partners, we are better mothers, we are better employee, we are better at what we actually do. Our clients are going to get the best of us, rather than the dregs in between, the 10 minutes that you had between that client call and when the kids are going to get home, where you can scramble something that is not going to actually be your best work. So when we're at our best, we're really giving quality to everyone in our lives that are important, including clients and family and friends. And so once you've done that, then look at the space that you have and get clear on what it is that you actually want to achieve in the business.
Okay.
And so for me, for example, I knew how much I wanted to work and I knew how much I wanted to earn.
Mm-hmm.
And so those two things have to match, because if I only want to work 2 days a week and I want to bring home X amount and I'm only, charging half of the amount of what that added up to, well, that's just not going to happen.
No.
And so thinking about first, how can you rework your package and what you offer so that you can charge what it is that you need to charge to get what you need in the business, which is also probably not the same amount, right? So if you want $100,000 in your pocket, you need to earn more than $100,000 because you run a business now and there's tax and expenses and all of that. So knowing that, let's work off that figure. You want 100,000, we need to figure out a way we can bring in 150 or 200,000, depending on your business model.
Right.
And so thinking about that and then going, okay, what are all the things I need to do in my business? When am I actually going to do my marketing? When am I my freshest? When am I going to do my content? And again, time blocking it out and putting it on your calendar, going, great, okay, Monday mornings for me is I'm doing all of my strategy, all of my writing, all of that. When am I going to have client calls? Oh, this day makes sense, or these times make sense. And there's no right or wrong way. And your whole week, once you've mapped it out, is probably never actually going to happen like that 100%, because like life happens, right? And client calls go longer and deadlines come in and children get sick and, all the like a million things.
Yes.
But at least you've thought about it and you have the framework there that is the goal. And so more of that is going to happen than not. And for me, that's how I make sure that, because I love my business, right? If I didn't look at my calendar, I could just have my computer open and work and work and work and work and work because I love it. And I wouldn't have a lunch break and I wouldn't see my children like as much as I want to and all the things. So I think those boundaries actually give us the freedom that we're looking for when we start our business.
I do something very similar. I also block off time for I did not take this into account. I did not know this was going to pop up and I was going to have to take care of it this week in my business. I block off time for that so that there is a wedge in there that can be the catch-all for the stuff I didn't plan on that we all know happens.
Oh, I love that so much.
So I try and I keep track of it. So I always teach people to keep track of how much time they're spending on the unplanned things and then kind of average it out and maybe find a block in their week so that they can safeguard that. And if they need to shift things around in the moment, they can, but they've got a little bit of extra leeway for those things that just pop up.
Such a good idea.
Yeah. Because otherwise, you're right. We leak over the boundaries and suddenly we're working more than we were in a 9-to-5. We don't have the freedom we wanted. And we get burned out and tired and resent the business that we were so passionate about at one point.
Totally. It's
definitely
really easy
not where we want to get to.
No, but it's so easy to get there, especially if we're great at what we do and we pick up clients quicker in the beginning. We're trying to start a business and we say yes, and we probably don't charge enough, and but it's all a learning opportunity. So I encourage you to go back to your calendar every 3 months and go, okay, what's on here that I don't need anymore? What's not actually working? What's never getting done that's on my calendar every week that I never actually do? And rearrange and try something else. And I used to have that same guilt you were talking about working at night, because I thought because I got to the point that I was working a lot. And then I realized, and I cut it all back and I restructured my business and, I made it work to be able to work 2 days a week and homeschool my children the other days. But then I was working at nighttime sometimes, like on projects again. And I was like, I feel so, I was feeling that guilt. And I'm like, why why am I feeling guilty when I love it? I don't watch
Mhm.
television. Like, this is fun for me. And just like, even a few years in, I still had that conditioning
Yeah.
that says, like, we shouldn't work at night because then we've broken the
Right.
boundaries and we're failing at
Mhm.
business. But I was like, hang on, no, my boundary includes that. I need to remember there is no box. I'm not like, I don't
Mhm.
need to squish myself into anything, and nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong
That.
unless it's not working.
Mhm.
And that works for me. Like right now, it's 6 a.m. in the morning.
Mhm.
That works for me because my children are asleep. Like it's great. And
Mhm.
that's the right thing, is the thing that works for you.
Yes. People ask me why I co-work at 6 a.m. because no one needs me. And it's my time to just focus and be me and get some work done in a way that I love. So
Yeah.
I don't feel the guilt because I'm completely focused and it's okay. I also work some in the evenings because I spend my day with my kiddo homeschooling.
Yeah.
So my time with him is during the day, and then he goes to bed and I get in a little bit of work at night. My husband
Mm.
works from home, so I see him throughout the day. So the goal is to find a rhythm and a system that works for you and your family. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to look like anyone else's.
Totally. And that's the point, right? Is we've been told one way such a long time, go to school, get a great job, work 9 to 5.
Mhm.
Like it's
Yeah.
so much a part of what most of us heard
Mhm.
and experienced. So yeah, breaking that down is a process.
Oh, it is. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it in the end. I think it's really worth it in the end to take that time and do what you're talking about, really getting very clear on your calendar and where you want to work, how much time you need to spend on your business to really create the income that you want or the other goals that you have, whether it's giving back or spending time with family, whatever it looks like. Um,
Yeah.
and that you can do that by staying super focused, not giving into all the shiny object stuff on Facebook and Instagram and social media in general, but really just staying in one lane, choosing a path forward, working it, experimenting, testing, adjusting,
Yeah.
and just keeping it simple.
Yeah. Yes. Keeping it as simple as you can and come
Mhm.
back to that. Don't just give it 2 weeks and then go, oh, well, that didn't work. Like, really, I like to work off 3-month blocks, like
Mhm.
90-day chunks, but find something that works for you that
Mhm.
is longer than 2 weeks so that you can actually see the results. Like,
Mhm.
we plant the seed and then we need to water the seed and wait for that to grow. It doesn't mean it's not working if you can't see it just yet. Like,
Mhm.
make sure you give it enough time, whatever you're doing,
Mhm.
to see, like, is this me just learning how to do this and it's a skill I need to develop, or is this like fundamentally not what my people need? And so
Mhm.
if you need to get support and advice around that, then connect with other business owners that you
Mhm.
can bounce things off and get other perspectives,
Mhm.
because we don't need to do it alone.
Nope. I agree 100%. So, Annalise, I really appreciate you sharing all of these words of wisdom. Before we wrap up, I've got two questions for you. One, what is one big piece of advice or tiny piece of advice that you would offer to any listeners today in their business?
In your
It
business,
doesn't have to
I
anything, whatever comes to mind for you.
the first thing that come to mind is, remember the difference between visibility, getting in front of new people,
Mhm.
and doing your content. Because I think a lot of people do their content and their social media, and they're just showing it to the same 500 people on their
Mhm.
Instagram,
Mhm.
and they're never getting fresh eyes in, which means
Mhm.
that you're selling to the same pool of people again and again and again. So don't forget the visibility piece and getting in front of new people. It can sometimes be a bit of a shift in mindset.
That's a good one. Visibility. We always have to increase our visibility. Absolutely. Okay, the second question. This one's tough. How can we get in touch with you after this episode is over? I know our listeners are going to want to check you out and learn more from you and get all of the wonderful wisdom that you have shared in bigger doses. So, how can we connect?
Come and send me a message on Instagram. Come and say hi. I would love to chat with you.
Okay.
Yeah, let me know what kind of resonated most. I'd love to continue the conversation over there. And it's at Annelise Worn, and I'm sure the link you'll find
Yes, ma'am.
somewhere because the spelling's a bit a bit different.
Yep. Okay. So we can connect with you over on Instagram and those DMs, and I will definitely link that for everyone so that it will be just a click away to start that conversation and learn more. Thank you so much, Annelise, for joining me today, for sharing your wisdom and the things that work for you, the systems and ideas that you have tested and found to be tried and true over the years. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Maura. It's been really nice to speak with you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.